Everybody, it's Retro Jojo back after a long, almost 2 months, I believe, or it might have been 2 months. I apologize for it being so long since I've done some new content or new video, but uh, I got a new schedule at work and I didn't have a whole lot of time to sit down and play anything or really do a whole lot, so that's kind of why that happened. Uh, Not saying that I don't like my job or anything like that. I just didn't have the time on my hands. But I want to talk about something today that's I haven't really. I never really was into it when I was younger. Never really got into it a whole lot. And that's Todd McFarlane's Spawn. You know, he worked for Marvel, and then he kind of did his own thing because they didn't. I guess they didn't have his vision in mind or whatever. I don't know all the details, but I want to talk about two properties within the Spawn universe. And the first one is Spawn Armageddon. It's a game came out on PS2, GameCube, and original Xbox. I have the original Xbox version here. It's the front. There's the back. It says the countdown to Armageddon has begun. For countless millennia, angels and demons have been preparing for the final battle between good and evil, and the time has finally come. The angels have declared war by blasting a hole straight through New York City and into the demon realm. Now demons are spilling out onto the Earth's surface. Can Spawn save himself and humanity from certain annihilation? A lot of people don't really, you know, fully understand Spawn, or all they see is Spawn and think of Hellspawn, but actually in the story, Spawn kind of rejects the whole idea that he has to do this demon's work, Malbosia, and he doesn't want to do it, even though that's the only way he tells him that he could reunite him with his wife, Wanda. And so it's kind of a sad story, kind of he's kind of destined that once he uses up all of his powers, that's what's going to happen. He has no choice, so he tries not to use up very little of his powers. But in the game, you play a Spawn, of course, and it has different enemy types for you to fight, both angelic and, of course, demons, demonic. But the angels that you fight are not like the ones that you see, you know, in the Bible, how the Bible portrays them. Of course, it's a fantasy world, so you know, there's that. And the music, there's a song by Marilyn Manson on it, and there's really good background music. The music wasn't really at the forefront of the game. It was more story driven, and kind of if you like Spawn and you like the comics, then you'll like that game. It covers issues 1 through 99, I think. There's different events that apparently are in the comics. I'm gonna have to read some of the comics because I've never really read any of the comics. Maybe flipped through some pages before, but other than that, not really anything of any significance. But yeah, the game has a bunch of different weapons, and you use his necroplasmic powers, and it's fun to play. But there is one or two drawbacks to the game. It has a good flow to it, but one of the drawbacks in the game is there's like 2 or 3 cinematic cutscenes. The rest of it is all, it plays out from level to level, and it doesn't really have cutscenes in between, which I thought was kind of strange. There's only a handful of cutscenes in the game, so I thought that was kind of strange, an odd choice, because they could have done, you know, cutscenes like they did at the beginning and the end. I think there's one in the middle of the game, but most of it is the style or animation or whatever you want to call it that they use for the in-game gameplay, which is kind of, like I said, a weird. It's kind of a weird choice, but it works. Uh, Another thing that's weird about the game is everything else. There's no hardly any puzzle solving. It's kind of from point A to point B, and then when you get to like, I think it's level 22. There's 23 in the whole game. It's like they want you to solve this labyrinth puzzle type thing, and just expect you to know where to go or kind of figure it out. I had to look at a walkthrough and figure it out for myself. So it's a level that kind of catches you off guard after you just kind of hack and slash your way through a ton of levels. But it's still a lot of fun to play. You can collect comic book covers and look at the art and concept art and stuff like that. So it's a fun game to play. But the only other drawback is, and it's not really a bad thing per se, but it is something that I would, I think they could do like an open world Spawn game at this point, and it doesn't really have a lot of that. It's more point A to point B, and it feels a lot like Devil May Cry 2 is like a Devil May Cry 2 clone, but it has its own individuality. You have all the Spawn characters, Violators in it. You get to see Malbosia, you get to see Redeemer, and characters like that. But it has a like a Scorpion type armored tank. At one point, you fight a bulldozer that's like a Zest bulldozer. I don't know. I went down an alley and then there it was, and I was like, oh wow, because they did that in Devil May Cry 2. There were helicopters and tanks that were same thing. So they did rip some things straight from, and they just changed the paint apps or changed the design of it, I guess you could say. But it's a lot of the same. The gameplay, you can just spam the fire button if you want to. I try to throw, with the Spawn game, you can spam every enemy in Devil May Cry with the pistols or whatever. In Spawn, you kind of do have, Armageddon, you kind of have to think on your feet, because there are some enemies that won't take as much damage if you don't know how to effectively take them out. And that's what's interesting too. There's like an encyclopedia of enemies, and if you scroll across, it'll give you basically a way where the weak points are, which is interesting. So it adds, you have to use the Axe Agony, and in correlation with his chains, pistols, he has like SMG type machine gun pistols. There's rocket launchers, or a rocket launcher, I think. He holds it with both hands. It makes his movement very limited though. Mini guns, he dual wields 2 mini guns. What else is there? There's brimstone cannons, he dual wields those. There's just a bunch of cool weapons. There's this like ultimate weapon at the end, and I found I couldn't charge it long enough to really attack a lot of enemies, and it only has 3 shots, but the design's really cool. It has like a giant skull over the top, so it's pretty neat. But yeah, that's one of the major things that I noticed, because in Devil May Cry 2, you see every enemy has a health bar, and you can lock on to them. Same thing with Spawn Armageddon, you can do the same thing. And some enemies, like I said, you can spam the fire button and you win, but in some cases you can't. Especially with bosses, you're going to have to do a little bit of thinking on your feet, And Spawn can jump between walls, wall jump. He can double jump and then glide with using his like living cape, because the cape kind of moves in a way that it's alive. It doesn't really move like, say, Batman or Superman's cape. It's almost like a living organism. It's part of his necroplasmic suit, so it technically is. You can use the Axe Agony, all of his arsenal of other weapons, and you can use his necroplasmic powers, and you can scroll through those. So there's a lot that you can do as far as combat goes, which makes it more interesting to me than Devil May Cry 2. You fight enemies like Violator, Frenzy Violator. Like I said, you fight Redeemers in the game. You fight him. You fight his final form. It's just a lot of fun. I mean, you get if you like Spawn, then I feel like you will like the game. And it has, let's look at the box a little bit. It has 7 different and unique game locations with 23 missions. There's more than 25 enemies, including those of, like I said, there's angels and demons. Storyline contributed by Todd McFarlane and inspired by comics 1 through 99. I talked about that. And you can combine attacks with Spawn's Axe Agony and arsenal weapons, and the trademark change from his Hellsent symbiotic suit. So, very, very interesting. I enjoyed my play time with the game, and there's not a whole lot else I can really say about it. It's just, I like Spawn, so I had a good time with it. And if you haven't played it, because I thought it was, I thought it was a fighter type game. And then when I got to looking at reviews on YouTube and stuff, it was not. So I was interested to see how, a hack and slash Spawn game would play, but I had a great time with it. And I recommend that anybody who likes the character would give it a shot. So that's my take on that. And then I'm going to talk just briefly for a second about the movie that came out in '97. I have that as well. You can see the cover for the front. And there's the back. I don't know if my camera will get all of that. But it says, imagine a creature on the verge of creation. From comic book legend Todd McFarlane comes the live-action special effects movie event of the year. Spawn, Michael Jai White, John Leguizamo, and Martin Sheen star in a battle beyond good, beyond evil, and beyond imagination. So originally this movie was gonna actually be, it was for theaters, it was PG-13. I believe they dumbed it down a little bit, but the one that's widely accessible now is the director's cut. It's the one that they have released for forever on DVD and other platforms. When it was out on VHS, I'm sure it was the R-rated version. But there's a lot of moments in the movie that I will say are a little less than desirable, like how they did Malbosia in the movie. I wasn't the biggest fan of, it looks like a PS2 cutscene. And what's interesting to me is ILM, Industrial Light Magic, they worked on it. But I guess because of trying to push it out and get it out, and their budget and everything just didn't work quite the way they wanted it to. But I feel like the main characters that gave their likeness to the roles that they represented, they did a great job. Michael Jai White as Spawn and Al Simmons, I feel like he did a good job as the character. John Leguizamo, he did a great job as Clown in the Violator was kind of CG, but he did a great job portraying the Clown mainly. There is Clown and Violator one and the same, but he didn't have a lot of, if any, I don't think, spoken words really. And I've watched the movie like 4 or 5 times before this review. So, and you have Martin Sheen as Jason Wynn. There's a girl, I cannot remember her name. She plays like his, oh man, I wish I could remember her character name too. It's slipping my mind right now. I'll remember it and I'll talk about it in a future video if I read the comics, because she's in the comics as well. I was thinking of another name and it's from another movie, and that's not right, so I don't want to say it and it not be right. But it was an interesting movie to watch, and just to see, some of the special effects were really good and some of them were not. The music was all right. Now the soundtrack that came out for the movie was really good. You had bands like Korn, and Manson was on it, and you had a ton of other different artists that a lot of people never heard of. I think The Prodigy's on it. There's just silver chairs on it. There's just a bunch of different artists that collaborated that normally probably wouldn't have. So it's an interesting soundtrack too. You should, check that out as well if you are interested in Spawn or things of that nature, or the bands that are represented on the soundtrack. You should check it out. But back to the movie, John Leguizamo just did a great job as the clown. I feel like he really got into the character. Martin Sheen was a good Jason Wynn, and Michael Jai White was great as Spawn, and Al Simmons, like I said. But John Leguizamo just really got into the mind of how a clown would think or act. He's really goofy and zany, and I just really enjoyed his character throughout the movie. He had really there were crude jokes, but they weren't really like laced with profanity or anything like that. I really enjoyed the movie. It was really, some of the special effects weren't the best in the world, but the story was still the same as it is in the comics, and it was a great time. It was I enjoyed it. So if you haven't seen that movie, I recommend that you watch it and let me know what you think about it. But it to me, it's a good superhero movie, or anti-hero movie rather. He's not really a superhero, he's an anti-hero. And I like anti-heroes. If you know anything about me, I like Punisher and Deadpool, and I guess Wolverine's kind of a anti-hero to a certain degree, because there was Deadpool and Wolverine. And Spawn and stuff like that, Ghost Rider, stuff like that comes to mind. So that's what I like. So, but as far as the movie goes, I recommend that you watch it with an open mind, because it's not everybody's cup of tea. May not be your thing, and if it's not, then that's cool. It's my cup of tea. I enjoyed it. I had a great time with it. I had some laughs. It presents itself, as a little bit, in my opinion, trying to be funny and kid friendly. And I feel like now, like with Deadpool and everything that's come out, and movies like that we could get, and they were supposed to be they're working on a reboot, and I believe Jamie Foxx is somebody that they want to get possibly to play Spawn, and I think that would be perfect. So John Leguizamo said that he might even reprise his role as clown for the reboot, so that would be phenomenal. I feel like they could do a lot more effects, and they could do a lot more fighting scenes, and if you've ever seen the animated series, Todd McFarlane's Spawn series, then you've seen that it can go there as far as the action, violence, because Spawn's not, Superman, Batman. Batman even gets dark in some places. Superman does too. There's comics where it's really crazy, but most time it's not. Or Spider-Man, he saves people, but there's no like gore really. You know what I'm saying? And in Spawn, it's like Punisher and other properties, and Deadpool and stuff like I mentioned. There is a lot of that. So I feel like if they did the animated series with this reboot, and did some of what was in the 97 movie mixed with that, it'll be perfect. And I really enjoyed the CG scene where Clown turns into a Violator in the 97 film. Excuse me. And they can do that even better now with the technology that we have, rather. I'm going to say technologies, it's not plural. Technology that we have now will make it much more accessible for them to do that. So let me know what you think about Spawn, and I hope you've enjoyed this video. I might be kind of all over the place, but I apologize for that as well. But it's been a while, and I figured I'd do a video talking about something that I really like. So there will be another video hopefully sooner rather than later, and I'm still working on getting the kinks worked out where I can actually play gameplay and show you guys the gameplay at the same time. So until we meet again, this is Retro JoJo signing off. Bye bye.